And now, the moment you all have been waiting for. It's time for the Rad and Bad podcast by Hickory Learning Group. Here are your hosts, Mike Carrero and Sean Yocum.
What up, fam?
Welcome back.
Yeah, listening to the Rad and Bad, that podcast that doesn't sugarcoat jack. We're here to tell the truth about ABA, whether it's beautiful, broken, somewhere in between. I'm Sean Yocum, BCBA LBA, and I got my homie, Mike Carrero, BCBA LBA. And today we're going to go deep into the belly of the beast. Today's topic, private equity in ABA. Mike, I'm excited.
I need the piano to go dun, dun, dun.
With the organ, right? And we're going into the belly of the beast, Mike. I can't wait. Yep, we're going to talk about the suits, the sharks, the spreadsheet assassins. They're not just investing, Mike. They're infiltrating.
And taking advantage. Sorry.
Mike, clear your throat. Clear your throat, though. Come on, man. Listen, they're buying up the clinics. They're flipping our companies. They're hollowing out the heart of our field in the name of efficiency. But what we're going to do is we're actually, all kidding aside, right? What we're going to do is we are going to break down Cody Morris's 2025 banger of an article, Private Equity and Behavior Analysis, A Reckoning, as the launch pad. So buckle up, sweetie, because this one is going to be a ride, and I can't wait, Mike.
Now, before we get into it, I'm going to preface and play an immediate devil's advocate and say that not all private equity is a bad thing, and that a lot of PE and VC or venture capitalism can be a really, really good thing if, and here's the big asterisk, and you can throw it in capital letters, italicized, or whatever you want. The big if is if it's done right and with the right people in mind. Because when BCBAs get to be BCBAs and we do values-based care, we make some pretty darn amazing things happen.
I agree with you there, Mike. I definitely agree with you there. But for those that are new to this, let's just start here. What even is private equity? Like, people might not even know what we're even talking about. So let's just start with a crash course provided from Cody Morris's article. So you want layman's terms, or you want the actual terms? Because I can go layman's terms, make it easier.
I would go layman's terms because I'll be honest with you. When I first got into the field, I genuinely, and I wish I was lying, super naive, thought everyone was just rainbows and sunshine and wanted to take care of people. And then I very quickly found out that was not the case, and I went, oh, this is terrible.
All right, layman's terms. So basically, private equity, or PE, it's basically rich people playing Monopoly with real businesses. They pool money, buy companies, cut costs, inflate value, and flip it for profit. Simple, ruthless, legal. That's layman's terms.
Let's put a bow on that.
And layman's terms. That is the layman's terms what exactly private equity is. But it's just investors with money that are looking to invest and make some sort of profit off of some sort of business, right? So you get a large investment, pool of money. That money comes in, and the people that are investing in that private equity are looking to get some sort of profit off of their investment.
Yeah, they want an ROI.
They want an ROI on it, right? So the real question is, why is ABA on their radar? Why is private equity getting into ABA? Why? Why, Mike?
Well,
What do you think?
When we talk about service codes and service delivery, I mean, you go to any doctor visit, this is the only therapy where you can get this quantity of services and service hours.
That's right. We just talked about it. So the 30-hour model, the gold standard.
You beat me to it, yeah. You can get a surplus of hours, we'll say, and they're paid out at very, very, very high rates. And I think that starts that, that maniacal little, putting your fingers together like this, and every supervillain has it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's that same, I'm thinking the Grinch, right? Right before he goes down to Whoville and gets all the presents, right? This is the exact, I I could do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money to be made over there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Private equity, they're investing in ABA because number one, the field, and this is a good thing. The field is growing fast.
Yeah.
Like we're able to, I mean, we're able to provide care to a lot of people, right? That's why it's on there. That's why there are fingers on the pulse of the ABA industry because it's like, well, wait a minute, this field is growing.
Mhm.
It's growing fast. People are advocating. People are advocating for the therapies for individuals with autism, right?
Yeah.
This is a big field where insurance, and you touched on it, insurance is paying consistently,
Mhm.
right? So the reimbursement is coming in consistently. Also, I'm considered now an owner operator, right? But a majority of owner operators are burnt out, under resourced, and are desperate for help. So to PE, we're not a field of applied behavior analysts. What they see is they see the spreadsheet, they see the billable hours, and then they go, oh, it's scalable, it's fragmented, it's easy to exploit. But here's my $1 million gut check, right? Like you said, not all PE is bad when you have the right intent behind it. Having a pool of money to pull from,
You can make amazing.
you can make amazing change, right? You can sit there and you can scale and you can build a beautiful company with PE investment or any kind of investment, right? Sky's the limit. But can you scale care? I don't know. Can you scale care the same way you scale coffee shops, like you do with like a Starbucks and you do with a Dunkin' Donuts,
Nope.
right? Can you scale that?
Not at all.
Can you mass produce human connection, clinical nuance, ethical integrity? Can you scale it?
Not at all. I mean, let's compare and contrast the two environments, right? If we looked at making a drink, right? We'll talk about like bartending, right?
Solid. I remember when you were a bartender back in your day, Mikey.
I mean, it was.
When you were shaking that cocktail shit.
Let's talk about making a drink, right?
Making drinks.
It's
Mikey.
just a task analysis.
Yeah.
Now, the art of making the drink is different than making the drink itself, right? Because as long as you can read some instructions or follow a model, you can make whatever your favorite drink is, right? You want a tequila sunrise? Boom, here you go. Let's make it.
How did I know you were going to say tequila sunrise? I don't know why. In my head, I'm like,
It was that or like whiskey sours.
he's going to say tequila sunrise. He's a sucker for OJ and cranberry.
But anyone can make those, right? That's why you can be an at-home bartender, right? You can serve drinks to your friends and all this other nonsense. But can you go to Vegas and flip bottles? Can you do the cool flair tricks that make it different than being a home bartender?
I mean, me personally,
Right?
no, I definitely can't do any of that stuff.
But now I take that same sentiment and bring it to the field, right? Sure, we talked about this in our last one. The barrier to entry is 18 years of age and high school or GED. Wonderful. I've never want to. Some of the best staff I've ever had are straight out of high school, just caring people, right? And we get the opportunity to mold them.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody is that person. We can't just go and be like, all right, cool. Next person that walks into this building is going to be the best staff ever, right? I don't have people walking into the building every other second, which means I have to take time to invest in those people, and I can't just turn them into the best providers at the drop of a hat. So unlike a self-sustaining business like Starbucks, right? People love coffee. Coffee is relatively simple. The margins are pretty high on coffee as well, right? Whole lot of water, whole little bean, throw it in a cup. Most people don't care what it tastes like as long as it's sweet and has the nonsense in it. And that drive-through is just revolving.
Unless you're a psycho like you who likes your coffee black and me.
Again, I will die on this sword. Quick tangent. Good quality coffee tastes fantastic. But most of the time you're used to burnt, over roasted nonsense from commercial grade things.
Bean water.
Invest in an espresso machine. You'll change your life. Yep. And it'll save you some money in the long run. But please go on.
Spoiler alert, hell no. Basically, what we're getting at is no. I don't think you can scale clinical nuance or ethical integrity.
But they try.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can mass produce a human connection. I think you can scale an ABA practice, but I don't think you can scale those three things. I don't think you can mass produce a human connection in a regional level. I don't think you can mass produce clinical nuance because ABA is so individualized across different clients. And I also don't think you can uphold the ethical integrity. I don't think you can.
I mean, it goes to that same aspect of there's just too many variables that you can't control. And if you can't control those things, why are we forcing them?
Good point. So, Mike, I mean, Cody Morris, when he wrote this article, I mean, it's not an opinion piece at all. And like, I think when people read it, they're going to be like, oh, that's just one man's opinion. No, he brought the damn receipts with this article. He brought receipts, and I want to just break down the biggest red flags that he outlined in this article. The first one was conflicting priorities. So a lot of times what you have to realize is there's a big difference between nonprofits and for-profit, right? So a lot of ABA companies, majority of them dealing with insurance-funded, ABA, they're for-profit businesses, right? So a nonprofit, they're going to reinvest in people, and PE reinvests in profits. That's the whole playbook, right? Typically what you'll find with PE is a hands-off leadership style. So founders who live the mission, so the people that started companies, guess what? They get replaced by an MBA who's never set foot in a therapy room. So culture dies in silence. What's your take on that? You agree?
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about values-based care, and at the end of the day, it ends up being well, I don't care about that, make it happen, right? If you value your paycheck and you want a position here, do it. And that's not the answer. I mean, I'd love to hear your guys' input on this one too, but how many times have you been in whatever setting you're in, right? Under this PE style, like, footprint, and you go, why are they making these decisions? That makes zero sense. And then when you go, well, clinically, that makes no sense. They go, yeah, but that's just the direction we're moving in. But that doesn't make sense. That doesn't support a clinical outcome for our people. And again, you can speak to that from a operational and like business like owner perspective, right? Because there are certain things where we have to be able to come together and say, hey, we need to do this as an organization. How do we do this clinically? And it's a conversation of, we are at a crossroads. How do we get back on the same path? Because if we care about the mission, we have to work together. Yeah. And that means not sacrificing the operational aspect of it and not sacrificing the clinical, because you can't have one without the other. And we're really trying to prioritize just having the operational in this sense.
I mean, not to get on a tangent, but one of the guys that I look up to, role model, and I'm going to shout him out right now, but Brett DeNovi. Mm-hmm. So Brett DeNovi from Brett DeNovi and Associates, he has this great saying. Brett, I'm shouting you out. I'm hoping you're going to listen to this podcast, but people over profits. If you lead with your values of people over profits, your staff, the people you're taking care of, and all that stuff, you can run a fantastic company. Yeah. And Brett, he's one of those guys that I look at and I'm just like, that's what I want to model this after, right? And that's what we should be as a field when we talk about that ethical integrity and we talk about that clinical nuance and that human connection. If you lead with that, you're going to be just fine, right? You're going to be just fine, right? The other thing that Cody talks about is flip cycles. So a lot of times, I don't know how many of you have done a toilet training intervention, or I remember when my son, we were toilet training him, or even before toilet training, child's in diapers, right? And a newborn baby, you're changing those diapers often. These companies, when they're in PE, they change hands more often than you're changing a diaper on a toddler. That's basically what happens. So each flip, you get a fresh round of layoffs. Restructured, and you hit the nail on the head, clinical chaos. Like, why are we making these decisions? Another point, clinical autonomy, trashed.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. There's no clinical autonomy.
You have complete clinical direction and blah, blah, blah over this situation. And the moment that you're not hitting those and I hate this word, my least favorite word, metrics, is the moment you're thrown on the bus. For advocating 9 out of 10 times.
That's right.
Why didn't you hit those numbers? Well, what you didn't see in your glass house per se is all of the other things that went wrong as a result of this one small change. That ripple effect is so big. And we talk about turnover, we talk about attrition, we talk about quality of care, we talk about all of those things. It starts with one person throwing a pebble.
Yeah, that's the clinical nuance you're talking about. And that's what you're talking about with the metrics. Like, you better hit those 90% billables, cut your parent training, figure out a way how to spend more time with the client, shorten your sessions, make sure you get into the telehealth session. You can go boom, 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 back to back. Make sure you're documenting less. Don't put so much in there so that way it doesn't flag anything. That's not therapy. That's factory work.
Yep.
That's how you can tell the difference between a PE-backed company versus clinician-owned operated company, because you're gonna have those ethical integrity, and you're gonna have that clinical nuance to know, like, hey, people over profits.
Yeah.
Let's take care of our people, right?
And you're controlling the direction, right? Because I'll use you and I as perfect examples, right? We think very similarly in what we want for the organization, but we come from two different quality approaches, and we have a wonderful checks and balances system. Well, if there were other people saying, "Hey, Sean, do you remember that bonus that you're entitled to at the end of the year if you get to grow our organization by 30%?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah, you're right." I said, "Well, we might be able to up that if you can do this," right? And now we're playing a wonderful House of Cards style game with incentivizing the wrong behaviors, because we're focusing on, well, this is this person's idea of how to grow, and then they put it in this person's ear, but they don't wrap around to clinical and vice versa. And we go back and forth, and there's too many people trying to dictate what the outcome is instead of prioritizing that values-based care.
Yeah, and what that eventually leads to, and we're not going to see this now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to see it now. We're starting to see the glimpse of it kind of now. I mean, PE's been involved for a while. If you have a chance to follow anybody on LinkedIn, like Josh Levine, that's the guy. Follow Josh Levine. He posts a lot about PE, BC.
Make ABA.
Make ABA calls it, but I mean, he's more on the get PE out altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I don't stand there. I think PE has its place, right? Mm-hmm. I think BC has its place, but what we have to understand is that if it's not done correctly, and this is what I think a lot of clinicians don't realize, and Cody Morris touches on it, but what a lot of clinicians don't realize is that if you're providing bad care, right? So we're not providing good clinical care, right? What that's going to lead to is that bad care is going to lead to not so great outcomes. So when there's companies that are not leading with clinical integrity or not leading with ethics, what happens is you get worse outcomes for the service you're providing. Well, guess what? That service you're providing then goes on public perception. They're not going to blame private equity.
Nope.
Guess what they're going to blame? The BCBAs, the RBTs,
ABA is ineffective.
Applied behavior analysis. Mm-hmm. That's what they're going to blame. And you smell that? You smell that stink? Guess what? That sticks to us. It doesn't stick to the private equity owners, because guess what? In a couple of years, they get out of it, and that's that. But then guess what? ABA as a field is ruined, and that stink stays with you in your certification. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, because we're looking at what is happening present, right? And we'll touch in that as to why people are still choosing to work for private equity companies. But what we have to realize, and it's very important, is that when you have this field-wide fallout where you have, I hate to say it, but terrible owners running terrible organizations and not caring about the clinical integrity or the ethical integrity, you're gonna have terrible outcomes. And that's your cert, my cert, that's our job, our livelihood, our impact. That's everything right there. Yeah. It sticks to us. And that's a point I want to try to drive, hammer home. And Cody Morris does a great job of hammering that one home too.
I think a big piece there too is, again, I want to believe that everyone who gets into the field of ABA is with good intentions, right? I think people get lost, right? And just again, you guys have probably been sold smoke and mirrors in some way, shape, or form, right? Where it's, hey, come here, we do great this, and we do this, and we have this wonderful package of opportunities and all these things.
I think that's the bait.
Right? And then guess what? It doesn't happen. I think it's that same trickle-down effect, right? And I'll make this similar to the Army, right? We talk about toxic leadership, but there's no level of accountability there. So get your salute out of here. It starts up at the top, right? So you have that person who has that vision, and then they go, all right, I need some help executing this vision. And here comes PE, and they're like, well, we can help you execute the vision. And they go, you can? And we have this wonderful conversation, and I'm like, I would love nothing more than to make a difference. And they go, we can do that, and here's how. And then before you know it, you didn't read the finest of fine print, and now you are 42 clinics deep with 12 providers. And you are looking at each other going, why are we opening up another location? And it's because, let's talk about numbers. When you put ABA on a map, right? What do? They hotspot it. Mm-hmm. They go, let's look at this geographical location on the map. What are the payers? And B, what's the population density? Right? And they prioritize the market instead of the people who need care. And so you get these large metropolitan areas with 8, 10, 12 ABA companies because that lake has plenty of fish in the pond.
Absolutely. It's a great business strategy.
Yeah.
And I don't fault them because now I'm going to play devil's advocate. Yeah. Normally you're the one with me. There are people there that need the service. 100%. So I understand when people get into the ABA industry and private equity wants to come in because maybe they do have that, I don't know, that drive to actually want to help people. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there are some companies that actually want to help people, right? But when you come into the field, and I'm going to say come into our field, right? Come in knowing that applied behavior analysis isn't just a treatment for autism. 97% of the people that come into it don't know that.
Oh yeah, no, they see.
No, it's adaptive behavior treatment. It's ABA therapy. That's a treatment for autism. Yeah, but that's not what it only is. So you can tell a lot by an individual who's getting into it when they say, "Oh yeah, it's autism therapy."
I think we also as providers need to do a better job of explaining what ABA is because historically the vast majority of BCBAs go into some level of direct treatment, which is primarily autism-based services. So again, if you ask a BCBA what they do, I would say probably at least 60% of the time, they're going to say, oh, I work with individuals with autism, right? So then we're in that cyclical loop of, well, it has to be autism services because that's all they talk about, right? But it's not just autism. It's everything outside of that as well. And I think that also gets that negative connotation of, well, it's not just autism. That's not a negative statement. No. That's just a factual statement of we can work with anybody, anything.
Exactly.
And work to address those behaviors.
That is the truth. But let's actually talk about why people are still taking the deal. I mean, you talked on it.
I'm just picturing Mr. Krabs.
Right? Let's talk debate, right? A lot of private equity owned companies, they're not going to they don't walk in with pitchchforks and start like coming stuff, right? They don't just come in like, we're here to change things, right? Like they're not doing that, right? They show up with paychecks and promises. Mm-hmm. Like you said it yourself.
And God, they're so good. They are packaged so beautifully. Like, like around Christmas time where Mercedes-Benz does like the wonderful bow. Santa with the big red bow. My God, they're so beautifully packaged. Sean, I'm going to paint you a scenario because this is like half of my LinkedIn box.
Oh, don't get me started. That's another topic.
How would you feel about a hybrid or potentially fully remote caseload with a very, very manageable amount of client size? Ooh. Oh, and
sell it to me.
It comes with a company cell phone, car, laptop, and we will fly you out once a month to we're going to say company team gathering.
Oh, sounds familiar. That sounds familiar.
I mean, we've all seen
it.
It's all the same thing, right? Oh, and then we'll sprinkle in a retention bonus that you more than likely won't get or have to pay back. Followed by a location bonus.
Wow, you are going there.
Followed by and again, I don't say this in a disrespectful manner.
Mike drank the Kool-Aid, by the way.
We, as a field, are just continuing to increase salary caps for no reason, right? Plain and simple. My first year moving down into this state, it was like 72. Woo. And then the moment that like someone gets a whiff of a BCBA in the area, they're like, hey, how do you feel about 95 plus incentives plus this? And you're like, again,
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, I don't know why my head's going here, but I'm thinking of like when people bid on like storage units.
It literally is like that.
Like it's like
I don't want to fault any BCBA in that aspect of things, right? Because again, for a lot of people, when it comes to choosing PE, right, you're gonna pick the best of the worst. And I say this not in a bad way, but I don't blame them for saying, well, I'm just gonna choose more money if they all stink.
Such a good point.
Why would I get paid less to have the same frustration?
Well, yeah. I mean, Mike, you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, the reality is there's a provider shortage.
Yeah. So they angle the carrot.
Well, so what happens is you're inflating the value of the BCA because there's a supply and demand. So what happens is it's just going to be. I mean, I've seen it when I work for companies with interviews. Like someone interviews for a company, they get a matching offer, and they go back to the other company and say, "Well, this company did this." It's like
what if they throw on a CEU package?
Yeah, it's like it goes back and forth. But it's like, look, bottom line, it's like, oh, you're fresh out of supervision. Guess what? Here's $90K, and we're also going to slap on like a director of whatever or chief clinical title. Here's the title. Now, guess what? Congratulations, you manage a staff of 20. You got zero support. Oh, and guess what? You also get a panic disorder along with your title.
Can I give you a quick hot take in there while we're on this one?
Yeah, go.
The salary does not match the skill set.
Nope, not
That's
at all.
my hot take.
Not at all. It doesn't. The salary matches the inflated, and we're BCBAs. Like, we're saying this because it's true. Like, the salary is inflated because of the supply and demand.
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous.
That's all it is. And the second you increase the demand, like, that salary is then going to go down, right? And that's okay. If you're really in it, if you're really in this field for the right reasons, it's about helping families, right? It's about helping families and taking care of families and supporting each other and developing the community. Nurturing community, nurturing families. That's what it should be about. Yeah, don't get me wrong. If you want to pay me a good salary to do the job, and I'm doing a quality job and I think I deserve it, awesome, right? But that's not the number one reason why a majority of us get into the field. And I think we fall into that trap of, oh, you're going to pay me that, you're going to pay me that, you're going to pay me that. And you go higher and higher and higher and higher.
And we continue to incentivize the productivity of the thing, right? Hey, I understand. Let's talk about it, right? Minimum billables, right? We keep the minimum billable low at a moderate to high salary. And then the incentives that are just plastered on top of that to continue to bill are a high priority, right? You got a low billable caseload, we'll give you 22 hours a week. But for every hour over that of this, you get paid this much, right? Or if you hit this like number, so you go from, let's say it's 20, if you hit 30, you get this bonus. Right?
There you go. Yeah.
What are we doing? Reinforcing the billing aspect, not the quality of treatment.
Yeah, and then you get BCBAs that they come into the field and it's like, oh, wow, it's a 20-hour billable requirement. That's great. That's half of your work week. Oh, but guess what? Mm-hmm. If you do this hour, we're going to pay you this amount of money. Yep. And if you get this, you get this. And then what happens is they're incentivized to bill.
Yep.
They're incentivized to be productive from a billing standpoint instead of from a clinical autonomy standpoint, from an ethical integrity standpoint.
And those clinical outcomes don't occur because we always talk about, when do I have time to do those things? You want to know why that billable caseload is supposed to be that low? Because the remaining hours of that 40-hour plus work week, guess what you're doing?
You're being paid to look at that stuff.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You are filling in all of the holes that you discovered in that supervision, in that parent training, in that RBT observation, in whatever the case may be. That's your non-billable time to put in those programs, do some research, understand the clinical outcome.
We kind of got off the topic with private equity, but it speaks to like a part-time BCBA. I never understood a part-time BCBA.
Okay.
I don't understand it because you're incentivized by billable hours. So I can only work part-time, so I'm just going to bill. But then the rest of
circumstantial, no.
But I'm not going to look at my cases after that. Whatever. We can get on. That could be another topic we'll talk about. But let's get back to it. So looking at admin relief. Right, it's promised. Like you got this admin relief, so they handle billing, the HR, the marketing. Sounds super dreamy. It's awesome. But then guess what? You then realize that they're the ones that are deciding the caseload, the hours, whether your client really needs just that bare minimum amount of hours. So it can't just squeeze in a couple more hours, right? The other one that I love, and Cody touches on this, is gag orders and NDAs and non-competes. And non-solicitation, right? Try to blow the whistle. Guess who you meet? Joey Fataruso, Esquire and Sons law firm, right? You meet the legal team. Yep. And that's why the horror stories stay buried, because it becomes too damn late because no one is sitting here and talking about it. But guess what? We're talking about it and don't care.
And like the thing is, it becomes, I don't know how, because I don't understand the thought process behind it, but we get really good at that lawyer aspect of things, right? The people in those positions that have that kind of power, we're real good at not having a paper trail. There's no emails. There's no, we had a conversation about that. I don't remember anything about that, right? The one thing the Army taught me, if it's not on paper, it didn't happen.
Correct.
Right? And that's, when we talk about paper trails, that's that revolutionary aspect of things. But I think what you're also referencing is such a big point of contention and frustration in the field of, well, I want to go somewhere, but I can't. Why can't you? Because there's no other options. And if you have those options, they're like, if you go, we're going to make it incredibly difficult, right? I'm going to lock you out of your own systems.
Yeah, better move 50 miles away or 75 miles away to another state, uplift your whole family and go work somewhere else. Because that's basically what happens when you get a non-compete.
Or if you want to, again, be an independent provider, still can't do it. Because you either don't have the funding, which again, different story, different day, or you're stonewalled because we're monopolizing a market of people.
Yep.
These are people. These are families.
It's not monopoly houses and hotels and Park Avenue and Boardwalk. We're talking about Johnny, Craig, Susie, whatever names you use, and their families who live on this street in this small suburban town. Like, that's what we're talking about.
And again, that ties into our last one. If we truly care about doing things from a values-based perspective, do I really, really care if there's 50 different independent ABA companies in my region, in my town, in my area? Do you think that we can't support that many families? Why are the wait lists so long? Because you won't let providers be providers. Because they can't go and make a difference.
That's such a great point.
Plain and simple.
All right, so Mike, what's coming if we don't wake up? Right? What is coming if the field does not wake up? Cody touches on it, but I want to ask you first before we get into it.
I think a big issue of mine would just be over monopolization of the field, right? So I'm picturing just like one big entity, right, with a bunch of just, again, you guys have seen it all, right? You have this one big entity at the top, and then everyone under, it's like, Frosted Flakes and Kellogg's, right? Everything's all the same thing, just in a different person's name, and it's all under one big organization that's just funneling itself into itself. And they just buy out everybody else because they monopolize the market, and they push out all of the providers that want to make a difference. And then my biggest fear is just mass exodus.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I got in this to take care of people, and I can't take care of people. It's too stressful. I mean,
no.
I'd have to remember the actual burnout numbers, but like most PCBAs now, I think they leave the field in like 3 years. 3 to 5 years, and they're like, I'm done.
We got to look that up. If anybody knows, put it in the comments. What that
it's very, very low.
It's definitely around there.
It's so disheartening. It's all for the same reason we're talking about.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. Like, if PE keeps rolling through ABA like Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball, like, here's what we're going to have left. Like, missions are just going to become metrics.
Mhm.
Like, are you hitting your metrics? You talked about it. BCBAs are going to burn out. They're going to leave the field. They're not going to want to work in autism therapy.
Yep.
Right? They're going to leave to go create CEUs. They're going to go lead to educate. They're going to pursue a doctorate degree, go into academia. Like, that's what's going to happen. RBTs, forget about it. They're going to run for the hills. If they're not feeling the support, they're out of here. Client care is going to collapse. Like, that's what's going to happen. You hit the nail on the head before. We're basically training new BCBAs to enter a field where hitting productivity and the quota means more than delivering effective therapy. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the big one. And
I think they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they're so ingrained in this is what you're supposed to do that when, I mean, we've talked about our model a bajillion different times, and people go, that sounds really great, but that's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not saying we're better in any way, shape, or form, but I think should be the industry standard, because this changes the outcome. It gives the people a sustainable lifetime of skills. And I think because we're not educating and supporting the future of our field and saying, hey, look, these are the flags to look for, and this is what right looks like, and this is what potentially wrong looks like, and not saying to steer away from all of these types of things, but to actually have the conversation and say, hey, make an informed decision. Understand what you might be getting into.
Foreshadowing right there from Mike Carrero. That is some foreshadowing. I mean, Mike, guess what?
What?
You're never going to guess this. In a million years. This is a serious thing. You are never going to guess this.
My guess is always 7, so probably
your guess is never going to get... You're not going to get this. But Did you know the BACB Code of Ethics doesn't mention profit once? Did you know that? Profit is not listed once.
You mean they're not allowed dollars?
No, there's nothing in our Code of Ethics that mentions profit once, right? But guess what it doesn't shut up about? Dignity, autonomy, and not screwing people over. That's what's in the ethics code. That's layman's terms with the ethics code. Doesn't mention profit.
I'd say that's news to me, but...
All right. Cody Morris talks about the analogy in this article. And again, people, you need to read this article. If you have no idea what private equity is, read this article. Mm-hmm. I highly encourage you to read it. But he talks about an analogy about greed is good, right? He uses Wall Street. If you haven't seen the movie Wall Street, go watch the movie Wall Street. But there's a line in there where, I forgot who says it, but he goes, greed, for lack of a better word, is good, right? Cody Morris calls that mindset hard, right? And he's right. He's totally right about this. Because the logic of greed being good definitely flies in Silicon Valley and sneaker brands and all that stuff. But our science and the therapy we're provided, it's not software. It's not a sneaker brand. We talk about all these milestones that we like to share. How about a kid saying their first word, or a teen building their first relationship, or a family getting through dinner without a meltdown, right? Guess what? You're nodding your head, yes, but you can't automate that. You can't. You can't short staff that, and you sure as hell can't optimize your way to human progress. And what Cody says, and I have to agree with him here, greed in this field isn't just not good in the context of ABA, providing ABA therapy. It's freaking dangerous. It really is, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it corruption, right? It's taking advantage of a vulnerable population. And you're not only taking advantage of the population itself, but you're taking advantage of the people that provide the service. And you put both of those together, and now you have no support and no trust. People are like, I'm not going to be in this field anymore.
Yeah.
And people who choose to stay and try to make a difference and care about the outcomes, they're not going to have people to support, because they're going to go, nope, I don't trust that anymore. And it's because no matter how much work and effort you and I do as providers, as peoples, as advocates, we won't make that impact. Because again, This is what we do for a living. This is their life. They live this 24 hours a day, which means
168 hours a week.
when you mess up their life, because I'm gonna call that out, by doing things incorrectly, immorally, and unethically, they're never gonna go back to that, right? We talk about building trust and getting buy-in from families. How often do we have to work? Well, I've been in ABA before. I didn't really see the point. Let's talk about that. Why didn't you see the point, right? And when we start unpacking that and going through that motivational interviewing with families, that's usually what we find out.
Yeah, and it's across other disciplines too.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're constantly talking about, oh, we were kicked out because we got sick too often. What? Kids get sick, right? Some of our friends are medically compromised, right? Does that mean that they don't deserve services? Right? I mean, oh, you wanted to go on a vacation? Oh, you can't go on a vacation. You need to be here for 80% of your hours.
That's right, because you can't utilize ABA on your vacation.
What?
Dumb.
Like, so many simple things, and that causes that distrust and aspect of people just leaving the field.
Yeah.
On all ends.
Yeah. I'm trying hard not to laugh because, like, we're coming up to the final, like, wrap a bow around it with the hot take. What the hell are we going to do about it? Because, like, again, I'm going to be nice here for a moment. I'm going to be nice just for a moment. It's bad apples in the bunch.
100%.
It's like any field. There's bad apples in the bunch, right? So we have companies that are bad apples that are in it for the wrong reasons, right? And what happens is those few bad apples then spoil the rest of the bunch, right? Mm-hmm. So what are we going to do about it to get rid of the bad apples? Now, Mike, I don't know when the last time you were at NCABA was.
I've never been.
Oh, you got to go. It's great. It's great. You got about 30 ABA providers advocating for why they're so good at what they do and recruiting you. It has nothing to do with the CEUs or learning more about the field. It has everything to do with, look at me, look how good I am, look at my company, come work for me. That's basically what it is. Hot take. But shout out, go to NCABA because some of the people that are actually talking and the networking you can do, I'm joking. Like, you can actually make good connections with people, but majority of the tables are just people tooting their own horn, which is not what the event should be. That's another episode. But John Bailey did a talk in, I think it was 2024. Yeah, it was 2024. It was NCABA 2024. And he did a whole thing about ethics in the field, and he talked about private equity. And my hot take is literally what John Bailey said, right? You need to recognize us as a field. We are the field. We are the business. If there's no therapist, there's no therapy. If there's no BCBAs, there's no billing. Mm-hmm. There's no services. There's no values. And there's no results. So here's how we resist the sellout. Okay? Ask real questions. Before you take a job, ask real questions. Ask the owner of the company, why did you get involved in ABA therapy? Mm-hmm. Why did you open an ABA therapy company? Ask them. See what they say.
Yeah.
If they got nothing to hide, see what they say. Why did you get into ABA therapy? See what they say. Really ask that. Who owns the company? What do you stand for? Is your clinical decision-making yours or theirs? Mm-hmm. These are all great questions that you can ask. Demand transparency.
I'd love to talk about outcomes, right?
Go.
What's your actual true graduation rate, right? When we're talking about them coming out of services, yes, did they actually graduate? And when we talk about graduation, it's not you met a reduction in hours, quote unquote.
That's titration.
You no longer benefit the company financially, right? Because I can't tell you how many people that I have seen go into and I'll say a clinic setting, right? Because it's the easiest one to explain. They'll go into a clinic, they'll quote unquote graduate, go into that next less restrictive environment without support, without titration, doing it the right way.
Fail.
And what happens?
They fail.
They go, we need ABA again. No, you don't. You need the right version of ABA.
Bingo. Yep.
And that's huge. That's a big piece. And again, what's your staff turnover rate? What's your RBT to BCBA progress in your organization? What does their supervision look like? Right? I mean, let's be also honest. Do I have to sign a no solicitation, no compete NDA? Why? Tell me why I have to sign that, right? Because I won't ever do that again. Granted, this is who we are, but like even as us as employers, we don't have those. No. If you want to go somewhere else because you want to continue to grow, I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah. Outcomes, turnover rates, retention. The graduation thing is great. Like I think you should have to publicly disclose if your therapy is successful.
Yes.
Are you successful at doing what you do? Because like if I'm going in for heart surgery, I want to know who the best damn heart surgeon there is now. Who's the best cardiologist? Because that's the guy that I want performing on my heart. And they're going to disclose that. Oh, I have a 90% success rate with this single bypass surgery.
Yeah.
Like, here's the data, here's the metrics, here's the people that I've done, blah, blah, blah.
I mean,
why are we doing
I'm not going to compare them to like prison, but I'm going to make it make sense. Let's talk about recidivism.
Yeah.
Right? Are they having to come back to ABA as a result of failure to support a transition?
Bingo.
Because that's not ABA.
Someone is eventually going to do that. Someone's eventually going to come up with it, figure out a way.
They wouldn't be able to because they'd have to like look into each individual organization. They'd have to open their books.
You're looking at like, well, then you're talking about HIPAA and all that other stuff. But I'm sure, because think about it, they have it with doctors right now with like my chart. Like that's a big thing in the medical industry where like you can have someone's chart and then it's universal across other providers. You just sign off on the HIPAA release. Can you imagine if we had that for this industry where you can literally click a button and it's like, here's all that client's information. Oh, they were at this provider, and then they were at this provider, and then they were at this provider. Why? Mm-hmm. Why were we clinic hopping? Like, why were we provider hopping? What was that? I do think that's a big thing. Like outcomes, turnover rates, retention. It shouldn't be private info. I mean, it's got to be public accountability. Hold each other accountable. Draw the line.
Yeah. I mean, I'd even add one more thing to that is, what do you do for your community? What do you do for the people that matter that you actually serve?
And well,
how do you integrate it?
Well, it's got to be pretty damn hard if you're opening 40-something clinics and scaling, because how are you supporting 40 clinics?
Your words, not mine.
Yeah, I'm just saying it. I mean, how do you scale it? And if you do know how to scale it, put it in the comments. I'm not sitting here and saying private equity is all in all terrible. And I'm sure there's clinicians out there and there's companies out there that utilize private equity the right way, right? But what we're saying is, there's bad apples that are spoiling this and giving ABA a bad name, right? Last time I checked, right? If a business is pressuring you and the company you're working for is pressuring you and it's hurting your clients, it's not staffed or they're not supporting you in parent buy-in, right? Speak the hell up. Like speak the hell up, because you didn't go into this field just to be someone's KPI.
Yeah.
Like you are not a KPI. Right? Push for structural change. Like, fight for it. Fight for state regulation. Support accreditation organizations.
I mean, I think the other thing, too, is stand on your certification. You worked, excuse my language, you worked your ass off for that degree and that certification. Guess what? Without that certification, they can't do anything. And I think if enough people are going to stand on their certifications and say, I'm not doing that. They don't have it. We have the opportunity to be professional and request a change. If the change doesn't happen, we can force that change. Because guess what? I'm just not going to bill.
Yeah.
I won't put my name on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Support the accreditation organizations that actually have teeth. Not the ones that just have a fancy logo. Like actually have teeth. Like support them. And you said it, protect clinical integrity. Like it's sacred, because guess what it is? Like clinical integrity is sacred. It is. It's not, I'm not just sitting here and saying like, have clinical integrity. Like it's sacred. It's what our whole entire field is built on. Right. And we can't forget, like I said before, and this was the hot take, the field does not belong to investors. It belongs to us as the providers. Yeah. It belongs to the clients that are getting the services. It belongs to the family that are getting the services. So to the people who show up every damn day trying to be good. That's who it belongs to. And I think this is your wake-up call as a field, right?
And know that you are not alone in that aspect of things. If you have questions and want to talk through it, talk to your peers. If they won't talk to you, come talk to us, right? We'll at the bare minimum be a soundboard. But you are not experiencing a unique situation in any way, shape, or form. We have been there, and chances are your peers feel the same. Speak up about it.
Yeah.
Take some action.
Look, final thoughts here, Mike. Again, I know we went hot and heavy on private equity, right? Not every private equity firm is like that cartoon villain with like the mustache. Like I think of like Boris and Natasha from like Winkle.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing. But if that company's main mission is returns and not results, like just get the hell out of there. Like, cause they're the real problem. Like they are the real problem. So what I'm hoping is, and what you should be hoping is, this is the reckoning.
Amen.
Like,
Let's do it.
People are fine. I think hopefully this is the catalyst for people to start speaking up and start demanding change. Because we either have to protect the soul of our field, or we can watch it get gutted in the name of growth.
Yeah.
And watch it get gutted in the name of profit. Like, so either be in line to protect it or watch it get gutted. Because that's what's going to happen. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, say the hard thing.
Yeah.
Say it. Hold each other accountable. Hold your organizations accountable. And most importantly, remember why you got started. Do the things that you care about for the people and the communities that you love and support. And you'll never be wrong in that. And I will stand on that one till I'm no longer here. If we lead with our hearts and care about what we do, we will truly make an incredible difference, not only in the field, but in the lives of the individuals that we touch.
Absolutely. A shout out to Cody Morris for this incredible article. Please, we'll have a link to the article in our show notes. And Mike hit it on the head. Like, just stay loud, stay awake, stay dangerous. Like, keep advocating. Because if you listen to the show Rad and Bad and you are a rad and bad behavior analyst, like, you're not going to sell out anymore. You're going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to show up in numbers. And you're going to make a change. So, Mike, that's all I got, man.
Well, that's a wrap for us here at the Rad and Bad podcast, but it doesn't stop here. So head to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, you name it. We are on it, and we are looking forward to hearing from you guys. And stay tuned to visit our website for not only some really cool ABA merch, but also some CEUs. Until then, stay Rad and Bad.